What in the world will the Mets ever do with this bullpen? Well, welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watts UK99. Thank you as always for taking the time to watch these videos. So, the New York Mets have just finished a 6-game road trip in Chicago and Colorado. Did not go so well. They went 2-4. And coming out of Sunday's very disappointing loss to the Colorado Rockies, the biggest thing that the Mets fans were complaining about all over social media was the bullpen. This bullpen stinks. This is one of the 5 worst bullpens in baseball. Everybody should be off of this roster on this bullpen except for David Robertson. The complaining has just gotten insane. It is getting so over the top, and never mind all the the geniuses who are talking about firing the manager. I mean, I see a post like that, I just want to deduct 100 IQ points from them or so. But what I want to do is come on here for a moment. I do want to talk about some ideas to help improve the bullpen. I'm not going to say fix it, because you're never going to have a bullpen with 7 Mariano Rivera's in it or with 7 Edwin Diaz's in it. That's not going to happen. But there are some very, very big problems, and they do need to be addressed. But before I do that, I want to give us a little bit of perspective here. Okay, on this 6-game road trip, over the first 4 games, so the 3 in Chicago and the first in Colorado, the Mets bullpen in those 4 games allowed just 2 runs. That was it. I mean, if the bullpen is going to average giving up 1 run every other game, I mean, where do I sign up for that? But then in the last 2 games, they allowed 9 runs. That was the disaster, and that's why everybody is focusing on these 2 games, although it probably feels like the Mets bullpen was just, giving everything up all week long. It wasn't that way. Now, for a little more perspective, as a team, the New York Mets bullpen has a 4.29 ERA. That is 19th in Major League Baseball. So they are in the top 19. It's an average to bad bullpen as of this year. Obviously, the loss of Edwin Diaz has been devastating to them, as we knew it would be. They have a 1.23 whip, walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. Now, to give us perspective on that, Mets are 19th in ERA this year with their bullpen. You know what they were last year with Seth Lugo, with Edwin Diaz, with Trevor Williams as the long man? They were 10th. Only 10th. I mean, not a whole lot better. They had a 3.55 ERA and a 1.22 whip. So essentially the exact same whip. The ERA is about 3/4 of a run better, but it's not like the Mets had this lights out top 5 bullpen all season long. It wasn't that way. Okay, so while the bullpen has clearly taken a step back from last year, I don't consider this a hopeless situation, and there are ways to improve it. So we're going to focus in this video on internal options, because let's be real, this early in the season, there are very, very, very few teams that you could literally call being out of it. The Oakland A's, obviously, and that may really be about it. So there aren't many teams looking to trade right now. So the Mets have to do some fixes internally. The problem is there have not been a ton of great pitching options in Syracuse. But I would start with the 2 guys that I would move off the roster if I could right now are Tommy Hunter and stephennogosek. Now, here's the weird part about this. If you look at last year, both these pitchers were very productive for the Mets. Hunter last year had a 2.42 ERA, and Nogosek, as one of the 2 long men, had a 2.45 ERA. They were very good. This year, their ERAs are both above 6. They have both skyrocketed. So if you had to move 2 guys off the roster, I could understand it being the 2 of them, designated them for assignment. So then what do you do? How do you replace them? Well, there's a couple guys that you could look at. One player that I talked about a lot this offseason, I did a whole video on him, was ericorze, who has a very good split finger fastball. He is not having a good season, unfortunately. His ERA is 7.71. Plus, he got suspended not that long ago for one of those sticky substance issues. So, unfortunately, I'm not feeling optimistic about the future of ericorze. John Curtis, who was with the Mets very early on in the season, had about a 4 or so ERA. Well, that ERA in Syracuse, has it gotten better? No, his ERA is the exact same as Ericorze, 7.71 in Syracuse. It is 3 runs worse than it was in the major leagues. So something to me is clearly wrong with John Curtis. He may still be hurt. You know, he missed the last season, I believe, with Tommy John surgery, and he just may not be right at this point. But then you have another internal option that I would want to consider. It's a very high risk, high reward, and the pitcher is edwinuceta, who pitched very briefly with the big league club. He's only pitched 5 1/3 innings in baseball this year. 1 hit, no runs allowed, but he has 7 walks, so he is wild, and he's currently injured right now with an ankle injury. So currently he is not an option, but that is somebody that you could bring in if you could start to harness his control a little bit. And honestly, I wish Bryce Montes de Oca was still around, but he's going to be out for the entire season, and if he was around, he would have been a much needed piece in this bullpen. So what do you do? Who do you bring up? The first player that I bring up from Syracuse is Zach Muckenhirn. So Zach Muckenhirn has a 0.84 ERA in 21 innings in Syracuse. His whip is under 1, which is excellent. The one stat that doesn't look too good is his strikeout to walk ratio. He has struck out only 10 batters in 21 innings, and he's walked 7. So he's very much a contact hitter, even in AAA baseball. You can't imagine it's going to be that much better with the Mets. So, but if he can control his pitches, then that's a pretty good sign. So I would give very strong consideration to bringing up Zach Muckenhirn. Now, in addition to that, I want to bring up a lefty. I want another lefty option behind Brooks Raley. And there's really 2 guys, and you can go with either one of them. If you want to go with the veteran route, you go with tjmcfarland. So he has a 2.74 ERA in 16 games. That's over 23 innings pitched. In those 23 innings, though, he's allowed 22 hits, so basically 1 hit per inning. Not so good, but he has a very good strikeout to walk ratio, 25 strikeouts and 12 walks. So that is certainly an option. He has sort of that 3/4 lefty delivery motion, which can work pretty well. So that is one option. But if you want to go with the dark horse as a lefty, go with Natelavender. So Natelavender has pitched 18 innings between AA Binghamton and AAA Syracuse. And here's what he has done. 18 innings, he's allowed 9 hits, 4 earned runs. All right, so his ERA is an even 2. He has a 1.05 whip, really good. But the strikeout to walk ratio is excellent. 31 strikeouts, so that's nearly 2 strikeouts per inning. And he does have 10 walks, so he is a little prone to walks, but not too bad. So if I had it my way, I would bring up Zach Muckenhirn. And, you know, Natelavender is being promoted quite quickly. I don't know if he's ready just yet for the majors. I would probably start with tjmcfarland. I think from a baseball sense, it just makes more sense. I mean, Lavender's not on the 40-man roster or anything like that. So I would start with McFarland, see what he can do, and if Lavender continues to pitch well over the next couple of weeks, maybe in mid to late June, then you can consider calling him up to the big leagues. So that is what I would do with this bullpen. I would designate for assignment Tommy Hunter and stephennogosek, and in the short term, I would promote Zach Muckenhirn and tjmcfarland. So those are my thoughts on the Mets bullpen. I want to see your thoughts. Who would you bring in, particularly who's already in the Mets organization? It's a little bit too early to make trades at this point, and I really want to see what you have to say. Let me know if you agree, disagree, if you think I'm nuts. Of course I'm nuts. I'm a Mets fan. What do you expect from me? But I want to thank everybody for watching. I'll see you right back here with more content from you know where, the Wicker Chair.